the dashboards actually work as a heater and demister. So obviously this is a fiberglass dashboard and there is no way to kind of demist the windows with this. And the only way I can think of doing it is kind of butchering some holes in the top. And I've looked online for like mini vents and all sorts of vents, but nothing will go kind of straight up and around the back, quite simply because, as you can see, it's kind of a in and up rather than kind of there being loads of room at the bottom of the dash. So I've had to jump on the computer and make up some kind of bits of plastic. Now this is all printed in ABS, so it should withstand the heat. Essentially I made kind of some plates that fit into the gaps. Now they are going to need a bit of persuasion. I am going to need to bond these in with some kind of structural glue of some sort. But what I'm kind of doing is trying to make this whole section here pass air through, and then on the very ends I'm going to have a section each bit there where I can have my heater pipe going directly to. And obviously I've also then printed a split for the heater pipe, so one turns into two. And then finally some finishing bits for the top, which are likely going to be bonded on the top. Now they are going to kind of sit up a little bit. I'm not really too bothered about that, but I do kind of want some kind of finishing piece rather than just a big massive hole hacked out. And then the other thing I need to do is put the gauge pods in. Now I've already measured the gauges. Again, while I was printing I thought it may as well make a stencil for this because then I can get the gauges exactly where I want them. So we're going for the two diggers inside, and once I've worked out where the centre point is, which is going to be a little bit of measuring, I'm going to mark them on. We're going to go out, we're going to cut all this, and then pretty much try and make the heater section, leave that, put the gauges in, and then we're done with the dash pretty much. There are going to be some switches to go in, but I'm not overly sure at the minute whether I'm doing a centre console or not, so they may end up going into somewhere slightly different. But yeah, let's measure up, mark up, and then get cutting. Gauges cut out nicely. Now obviously the outer gauges are going to sit something like this. We're going to have then two posh inner gauges, and yeah, it should work pretty sweet. But for the meantime what I need to do, I also need to check whether I've messed it up, which I haven't. I've also cut out the demister vent areas, and then annoyingly with cutting one of them out with a jigsaw I kind of have gone through very slightly, but I'm going to address that at a later date. That's just going to be some gel coat filler from the back. I'm going to PU adhesive it. So yeah, plan is now, because you can see through these holes, I'm going to put some black paint just in the area where you can see through. I'm going to leave that to cure for a few hours. Then we're going to take it into the house and probably start assembling the demister section for the back of the dash. Now at a later date I may end up putting a couple of like different kind of potentially like warning light switches, stuff like that may go in the dash. I'm trying to avoid that at the minute because I think as basic as that can be, it's going to look a lot better. I don't want too much mess on it. So black paint, leave to dry, demister section, that's the plan. Let's go. Well, pretty happy with it to be fair. So we've got the gauges, which we've got two of similar gauges. We've got two black ones and two silver ones. I may look at stripping the outside off and painting those black to match, but to be honest I'm not too overly bothered because it will be even. Now I've made some trims on CAD and I've printed them out in 3D printer to go over the top of those. But to be honest with you, they don't actually look bad as just a hole. So I'm going to kind of reassess those shortly, whether I'm going to actually put the kind of finishing bits on them. But for the time being, dash has got to come out. I've also, again, messing around, damaged it there, so there's going to be some repairs to do to this. but to be fair, there's also kind of webbing on it, kind of like the rest of the fiberglass, so I'll need to do that. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this in, probably do it in the house, it's cold out here, and we're going to start making up the vent section to allow us to eventually run some heat straight up through the dash and Demister windscreen. So let's go inside where it's a little bit warmer. So I'm going to let this cure 24 hours. I'm going to leave it indoors because it's frigging freezing outside. But as you can see, it's basically the ABS kind of bits that I've printed are bonded in. And obviously there's some end caps. So in theory, the heat should come through. And then realistically, the only way of it escaping is through the vents, because obviously it's going to be pushing in this one, pushing in that one, and it's going to kind of get stuck in the middle. So I think it will just force out. Now, it may not be the most efficient way of having a demister, because obviously a lot of things need to be usually angled to the window. However, there's no space in this whatsoever. And even if it's not very efficient, it's going to be more efficient than not having a demister. So, kind of happy with that. Now I'm going to leave it, because if I start messing around with it, I'm probably going to mess something up. I'm going to leave it till tomorrow and then assess whether or not I need to put a skim of fiberglass in the back. I shouldn't need to, because obviously this is structural adhesive and obviously it's going straight onto glass, well, fiberglass and obviously ABS. There should be no real reason to add anything else, but I'm going to try and pry it and stuff tomorrow and just see. But other than that, I think the dash is pretty much done. Let's have a look tomorrow. And it has cured pretty well, so you can see nothing's realistically moving, none of these panels are coming out. Now I've also, the repair bit, I put a bit of PU behind that. I mean, it's not ideal, but it's not a structural thing anyway, it's just a bit of a cover. So you can see there's a bit of PU behind there, something for me gel coat filler to sort of stick to and stop going through. But I'll show you kind of up close. It's not pretty, obviously, but this is behind the dash, and as long as it's fully sealed, both ends of just the vents at the top, then it should work. So this is how it is. Again, I do know it's going to look ugly, but I don't really care because no one sees it. And as long as it works, I won't have to mess around wiping the window all the time. So we're going to chuck it in. I'm going to pop the gauges in. You can see how it looks, and then we're pretty much kind of done with the dash, unless I've got to put any kind of lights and stuff in at a later date. But yeah, let's go chuck it in. in terms of gauges, I've got a turbo boost gauge, I've got EGT, which is the exhaust gas temperature gauge. That was a very important gauge for this engine because obviously it's in quite a compact engine base. There's a lot of heat involved. I need to see what the EGT temperatures are, especially with the issue with the intercooler. I don't know what I'm going to do, whether it's going to be intercooler or there's a good guy that said to run a charge cooler, which may be the route I'm going. I'm probably verging on the charge cooler because it's quite a sensible idea. But also we've got the speedometer with mileage. Obviously it tracks mileage. It's got all the warning lights on. It's also got a rev counter built in. Now I'm not sure whether I can get the rev counter off of the alternator or not. If I can't, that's either not going to work, or I've got another one of these without a rev counter, so I may just pop that one in. And then on this gauge, we've got oil pressure, we've got water temp, we've got fuel level, and we've got voltage. So there's quite a lot of modern gauges in basically a small amount of gauges, if that makes sense. I wanted this to look as minimal as possible. But anyway, more to the point, hopefully if you wanted to work out how to fit a Demister into a Fibreglass 32, there's probably other ways of doing it, but this is the way I've done it. So I'm going to give you a quick close-up, and that'll be the end of the video. So if you watch the end, I just want to say thank you, hopefully see you in the next video, and peace out.